I like the black paper with my white pens.
Yeah, I hear you. Black and white.
All right. Black paper, white pen.
Yeah, that always takes YouTube forever for their dang live thing to show up. There it is. Takes YouTube a week and a day.
All right.
All right, and we're up. We're up and going. Yeah. Boom! Welcome to the Everyday Sniper. Although we're not every day in it, we're just Frank and Chris in it right now because it's Wednesday.
Lots of day sniper.
Yeah, lots of day
Almost.
sniper.
We just skipped last week, and we're an
Yeah,
hour late, but hopefully we'll get folks popping on. I mean, shit, it jumped to 16 already. So,
yeah. Well, and you know what
what
it
up,
usually.
Chris?
Yeah, yeah. Where
Where
are all the
at?
white girls? Right? The island. They're at the island. The island. The island. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, we're up and live, and it should be going. Who knows? Maybe an hour later, because like that Sunday morning was super busy. So maybe
Mhm.
people are actually like bored. I figure Wednesday's a great night because Wednesday is a crappy TV night.
Oh,
you know, because I have like Skinwalker and Oak Island on Tuesday. I mean, I guess you could do Expedition with Josh Gates. Josh Gates is cool,
I want
or
Murderbot season 2 to come out.
right? Although I saw one, I was kind of looking a little bit at Apple TV to see what movies came out because like Jurassic Park came out, which we
Hmm.
saw it in the movie theater and it was awful. But we'll probably watch
Uh-oh.
it anyway. But I'll watch it free. But I was watching, like, seeing what Apple had for new movies, and there was this like alien movie, like they're eating us, and they're these big giant reptilian aliens that are harvesting and eating us, and like a bunch of soldiers end up in their harvest place and then start
Oh,
fighting
is
them.
that
And
with the uh, it froze up.
oh, you froze, but I'm good. Nope, you're back. You're good. You're
Okay.
back.
Yeah, everything froze.
Yeah, you're back. You can't
Um
move a lot.
it was it
no.
the was it the with the gal from the Terminator?
Yes, that's the one.
Oh, okay, I saw that up there.
Yes.
And I was like, "What?" And then I'm like, "All right, I'll just wait." I always wait till I hear about stuff.
Yeah, I'll watch it first. But they're asking if we saw Warfare. I didn't watch Warfare. I've been avoiding it, but I don't know. Did you watch Warfare?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Oh, is it
Um,
good?
Frank and I like aliens and sci-fi kind of stuff more than we like realistic things, but it's realistic. Uh, I think they did a good job, but war movies are war movies, and but sci-fi, adventure, fantasy stuff is like way cooler because
Yeah. I'll tell you, in Iowa, I haven't been to a bookstore in for like ever, you know? And we went in a bookstore and it was really cool the way they set it up, and they had like only like the best franchises in their little sections, and their sci-fi um uh yeah, he can Mark wants to join. So for the sci-fi, hang on, let me text Mark this link. He's like, "Can I join in?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can." Let me send him this link. Uh
yeah, Chris, I was psyched to go and just couldn't. So stuff comes up
yeah, yeah.
sometimes,
But
and
anyway, so we were
I
in this
wish I
book
could do more.
we were in this bookstore and stuff, and it was like super cool, and their sci-fi fantasy section was like epic. It was really good. They had good stuff. What's up, Andrew? I was gonna tell you where we were. We stayed in Des Moines at the Marriott downtown, which was the trip was epic for meeting people in Iowa. Mark's in. Hang on, Mark. Let me see if I can add you.
All right, sorry I'm late.
There you go. Mark's there. Say hi to.
Hello. What's up, Chris?
We're all there.
Was
We could talk about our week of training and stuff. But we didn't. But anyway, we're just talking aliens and sci-fi really quick. But Andrew, I stayed at the Marriott and I was gonna reach out and tell you where I was, but I'm like, how do I get him? Because he just comments on YouTube. So I didn't know if I had you somewhere else. But we had an epic trip to Iowa. It's like meeting people in our hotel. It was like everyone was there as usual, but then when we went to the race, we had the VIP and we had the infield stuff. We saw everyone. It was like great. There was no driver. We didn't see if we didn't want to. We were in and out of everything. Laura got her pictures with um, Larson's entire team. She was able to go over to the pit wall where the team was getting ready before like driver intro, and the whole pit crew took a picture with her, and they're super cool. And but yeah, she met Cliff. She saw Tyler Mon. She saw all the Larson people and everybody else. But it was really good as far as access this time. We got to see everyone. Cool. Yeah. Chris
The
is
race was
drawing.
a drag, sort of.
It was there too. It was slow that first stage because it just went and like nothing really changed. And then in between that second and third stage where all those wrecks started, it was beyond monotonous. You'd look and then they'd wreck for it. Then you'd look and they wreck. So it wasn't a great race, but it was a great atmosphere and it was a great time. And they're even saying like Kenny Wallace this week was saying he doesn't see Iowa surviving a bunch more years because of some of what's going on with the track and how it drives. But it, like I said, the smaller tracks access is next level. So it's super cool with the small tracks. I like them way better than the big ones. The big ones you walk too much. You don't see anybody because they have segmented sections to hide from you. Where
And
the
it's just too
smaller,
big an area.
yep, the smaller tracks, everyone's there. So that's what we got going on. Yeah, Knoxville was busy this weekend though. Everybody was bouncing between Knoxville and cuz Knoxville was going at the same time as this race, and Knoxville crowd was spilling over and back and forth, and you're in the stands and people were talking about Knoxville. I want to say on Saturday people were racing to leave the Xfinity race to go to Knoxville. So, yeah, that was definitely a discussion out there was Knoxville, the sprint stuff. So that's getting more popular with, High Limit and World of Outlaw and Larson and all the guys running it now. And so you're seeing a lot more attention to those sprint car races than previously. So cool. But we could talk training. We had classes. First we had Nebraska, which Chris wasn't in Nebraska, but then we came to Fort Morgan and we did the Fort Morgan class, and so we could talk about that cuz I think we had a lot of good success. Both of them were um excellent classes. Fort Morgan required a little bit more work than Nebraska, and we had to bust a few myths because people, did the I don't get it, but then Sunday they got it, and like they always do. So yeah, let's
Yeah,
kind of
we broke it down in about every way possible. And
yeah,
on the ride home, you're going to discuss on the ride home. I was just sitting there thinking about it. I'm driving on the ride home, and I'm thinking, what are we missing? What are they missing? And it's gun number. It's because
yeah,
we attach it to the gun and not the wind drift. I think that was it. That might be the secret weapon.
is changing gun number to like drift number or something. But we hadn't
Yeah.
discussed much. Chris, I haven't been around. Chris hasn't been around. So I mean, you saw we left when you left, and then
Yep.
I hadn't spoke to him, but I did mention the gun versus drift number for the wind, in that gun number does seem to confuse people. I don't understand why, if you kind of say, I think in 5 mile an hour, and then everything to 10 is a, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 10 is 5, so double it. But yeah, people are confused in just I don't want to say if it's the terms or nomenclature, but yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
we
What?
have a chapter. We have a chapter in the presentation called "Drop and Drift." So then we talk about drop, and then we talk about drift, and then we when we explain the wind, we say gun number, which we should probably say drift number, and that attaches it to both the presentation and the cartridge, not necessarily the gun, because a guy could shoot 100 grainers. It's not going to be the same as shooting a 150, 147, let's say.
Yeah,
So
no, that's
it's not
true.
necessarily his gun; it's his drift.
Yeah, then that's a good point to bring up. Because that's true. Because the 100 grainers, their BC is shit when you look at the side of the box, but then when you shoot them, because they go so insanely fast, they're closer to a 6, 7 mile an hour drift in the beginning, than the 4 mile an hour that's written on the box. So that definitely, it would fix when velocity affects what should be the gun number, in a lot of ways. So, I mean, I guess we're kind of
Hmm.
jumping in. Chris is drawn, so I don't know what we were planning. And then,
We could actually skip assigning a gun number, and basically, that's pretty good, Chris. Um,
that's
and
really
and
good.
you know we you know
I
we
need
could
that.
we could like go out and
I
do an
want that on my
exercise
wall.
to give them their drift.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that is a thing to do, Chris, is to take everybody and to shoot them like at their,
Take
at a,
everybody and shoot them.
yeah, yeah, take them all and
That's
shoot
one
them.
option.
Pop, 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 pop. Everybody in the leg. But think about, what about this, Chris? And going on what Mark is saying, what if we drifted everybody like at 500, 400, or whatever, and said, what's your gun number at a distance? Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 6, maybe it's 5, like we do. We can haul one of those 40-inch targets down again and give everybody a sort of drift line.
Did you talk to Mark? Like, because we were talking about it, but in text while you guys were driving, and we didn't fully debrief the idea. But I said, yes, I like Mark's idea of, even though it's essentially the gun number, just calling it something else so that they don't get fixated on. But what if I have a 5 and not a 6? And we're like, really, it didn't gonna matter that much. But if we called it something else, and then we talked about the axis. Um, did you bring up
X
the
and Y.
axis, Frank?
No, no, I didn't.
So, since what makes craft wind and gravity ballistic so good is that we're used to XY coordinates with a reticle, and um, the X axis and the Y axis are essentially gravity ballistics and craft wind, and they're both factors of time of flight effects of wind and of exposure to gravity. So the real issue with how things are named now is that gravity ballistics has the X factor, and on a grid system, it would actually be the Y factor instead of the X factor. And then craft wind would have the X factor instead of the Y factor. But then or if we could just call it whatever the fuck we want. But if it's a grid coordinate system, X and Y axes being familiar, gravity ballistics would be the Y factor and X would be craft wind. And then you would calculate your hold and your drift using those values. And this would be based on gun number, and this would be based on, time of flight, basically, or, yardage.
Well, there's
Um,
vertical ballistics and there's horizontal ballistics, and wind is in the horizontal plane where
right.
gravity's in the vertical plane. So That's your X and your Y. Whatever we call it, you take Y, I take X. That's all semantic. That's really, it's not going to matter much, but the student needs to know.
Yeah, but if they were redubbed with a familiar uh terminology, like if we were gonna,
Which we can. I haven't brought the corrections haven't been done. I can change the X factor to a Y factor and and
well,
and, and
that assumes we want to do XY coordinates. If that's the case, then it
well,
works
what
really
else would
well
you
with
come up
mills.
with?
But it could be vertical, horizontal. It could be the
Oh, V and
um
H, or it could be like a
or something like that.
or it can be a E and D.
Well, we're
Yeah,
multiplying, so it makes sense as an X.
the X and the Y are easy to put in to formulas if people want to see that, because actually it is mathematical. And I told Frank I wanted to work out the math, but um, the confidence interval is really good. It's like 0.925, which means that we could put this in a formula for anything, even if you didn't have drop for it, and it would tell us the hold. And it works also with craft wind. But then I was joking. I said like it actually the system as a whole is analog ballistic, so we could call it AB.
Yeah, yeah. We should call it AB. No. Yeah, to put them together. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but analog ballistics or the new AB uh, uses an XY coordinate system, and it's shit hot. Like when people apply it, they just hit the targets to the point where it's like people are like, "Whoa, I'm hitting in the center of the target with less error than the elevation," until they work out the gravity ballistics, and then we say like, "Okay, that error that you're seeing is your fundamentals. Let's work on that, and it'll tighten up," which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, it's super cool. And that's kind of what we need. Like, now that I'm home this week, we can actually jump into, because we did those back-to-back classes, and Chris brought that up to me, and then like the next day I jumped in the car and went to Iowa, and so it's like all of that. So now that I'm home, I think we can jam this, and because I they haven't, there's probably an email. I didn't go in yet. I was gone all day and in and out. Um, and um, what do you call it? We probably can have them change a little bit in the app if we wanted to right up front, because the craft wind's going to be coming out in the app. I changed some of the gravity ballistics, and we want to reverse the table and do some of those things. So I
Thank you.
have time to have them make those corrections, because they haven't gone further yet. So we can absolutely
Yeah.
make any
And
large changes.
and nothing has changed on the formula side. It's just, if
The terms, right?
I guess it's a conversation that probably isn't to have on a live, but it's trying to figure out what terminology carries forward in a way that optimizes, because almost every month we come up with a new trick that not only complements it but drives it forward. If we had ways to kind of set up that so that it didn't need to be rebranded or renamed, it would be helpful down the road. But really, what we're talking about is a X and Y axis, and so the X and Y could be used, but it could also be drop and drift. It could be DD. We could just say drop drift, and but the multipliers for sure need, especially with the craft wind, because with the gravity ballistics, the multiplier people are pretty used to. With the craft wind, just calling it um, your drift number would be fine. The drift number or the X or the Y or not, that doesn't matter as much as just saying you're going to use this number. We'll tell you how to get to it and then multiply it. And if they weren't linking it to something else, there wouldn't be confusion, because the confusion comes with trying too hard to link it to something that somebody has said at some point rather than just listening.
I think
And
verbiage is important because we've been beta testing this sort of for what, this is the second year. I mean, you rolled this out last year, in a real way. And Frank and I started teaching it, taking it to classroom with our people. And basically, the only thing they're really not catching on to is just when we attach it to gun.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
the
if we
Right.
just switch that up, we're fine.
And it's just making it too complicated where it shouldn't. But it seems like you can't have a group of people that don't cause that problem, which could be eliminated by changing the word, because then they'll be like, oh, okay, how did I get to a five? Here's how we got to a five.
It's your
How do I
drift
get to a
number.
six? Yeah.
You think in terms of 5 miles an hour drift. And so
Right.
basically, and then you double it to 10, you triple it or whatever, but drift number or wind number. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
So I,
I wonder if I look up the old G1, I they had to, and I have some old manuals here that I might be able to find it, but maybe Grok can help me. But I'm wondering, the G1, the first number had value, and that goes back to the 50s and 60s. So what did they call that drift number, because it wasn't called a gun number? What did they originally call it
yeah,
in the 70s? What was it
yeah,
called before G7 came around? There has to be
yeah,
a term that define the G1 ballistics, and then to tell you that first number is the wind drift
you
of the bullet. So there's got to be a term they used originally that we've since lost and had been changed to gun number. So if we can
right, right.
find their original term, maybe that helps.
And I also think that when we're linking the G1 to, and we're noticing that there's some slight variations, that's where the the drop changes with density altitude. So if we took 10% per 1,000 feet, or 10, I think it's 10% or 10 or 20% per 1,000 feet, your gun number would go up with elevation, which it does. So
Yeah, I have
um
it right here. It's because
yeah,
Ted
so
put it.
so it would just be an easy thing, because if you had a 5 mile an hour gun, but they come here and they say, but my Kestrel says it's a six, which do I use? We could say, the density altitude is 6,500 feet, so you're going to add, a mile an hour to your.
Yeah. Well, it's
Well, the
usually
shooter has to be dynamic. I mean, he can't be static. He's got to be a little bit more dynamic than just remembering a number and trying to stick it out at all elevations, all speeds, and whatnot, or all days, hot days, cold days. He's got to be more dynamic than that, and we've just got to teach that and let them realize that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's it. But that's an interesting point, and it has dawned on me, but it doesn't come up enough to like do anything about the fact that most shooters are fairly localized to their region, and they're familiar with it, and often very good in their region, but without constant travel, they don't get to see those dynamic effects of environment change and how important it can be. And I think that's another point where problems come up, because people assume they know, and so they stop listening. And if people come here from Florida, the ballistics are much different. I mean, well, they're enough different that you can see a pretty dramatic change, and it's hard to capture somebody and keep their attention, to say what you're seeing, you're going to see every time you go somewhere different. Um, and that's why understanding the stuff that you don't see very often is still important.
Well, I think we're creating thinkers. We're creating, Frank and I pushed the notion of I need you guys to get the understanding of this ballistics, not just memorize the
yeah, the
associated
magic
facts in it.
box,
Yeah, I
right?
want you to be a better thinker, a thinking shooter, not just a shooter. When you're looking at a phone looking for a solution, you're not a thinking shooter, you're looking at a phone shooter. And so we're trying to have them work out the problem. That's what gravity ballistics does, is works out the problem and works them through the problem, allows them to participate, not just dial in their parameters, pull up a solution.
Yeah. Well,
Totally.
once you write it and you understand the flow, and then you see the drop side, the secret sauce of the drop, then it lays out your data in some of the most easily identifiable ways. It's like like we did the test. We told everybody, look at your last drop number. Was it 1.4? Was it 1.5? What was your, 9 to 1,000 yard drop data between the drop column? And they're like 1.4. And it's like, okay, if you're a 1.4, do a 1.6 to the next thousand, to the 1,100. And that kind of stuff is easy for them to do, and it resonates. They go, oh yeah, I just
Yeah.
add 1.6 to this, and now I'm in a good zone and I'm at the target again. So they see it and they understand it better. Like, I think on a Sunday when someone's leaving, they got it.
Yeah.
And then even with the wind, like Sunday when they left, they got it. But like Sunday morning, they're still coming up and they're questioning the gun number stuff. And so it's like, I don't get it. I'm not sure I understand. And it's like, well, we're only counting, fingers. And it's like, you have a 5 mile an hour gun, and 6 is 6, 7, 7, 8's 8, 9's 9, 10's double. And if you say it's a 5 mile an hour wind, but you shoot and the bullet strikes point 0.8 from center, not point 0.5 from center, well, then it's an 8 mile an hour wind out there. So you should be working with 8 miles. And, it's not the 5 you thought it was. And so I don't, because those numbers are so tiny, it kind of confuses me, the people's confusion.
Yeah, yeah. So there was Andrew asked a question, and I think it's hard to explain, and I need big pictures to understand stuff, so I draw a lot. But gravity ballistics. So if people are going to get their data, they could do it with gravity ballistics, or they could do it with a Kestrel. They both start pretty much with getting a zero. So I'm going to just draw them side by side. With gravity ballistics, ideally, if you do it right, we go 200 or we jump to 300, but we dial 1 mil and then we see plus or minus where it hit on a water line
Robert
on a
Segura is
target.
saying wind deflection was used.
So, we try to shoot a water line and hit the water line, and then we say, okay, well, we hit the water line, that elevation is good. So if we take that number and carry it to the next distance, and then we shoot a water line, and it might be a tenth under the water line. So we bring it up a tenth and we shoot the water line, and then we continue that. And so what what's happening here is that your level of accuracy is refining itself a tenth at a time as you go out with distance. So you might not be able to go straight from 3 to 6 and not have to do the refinement that you would subtly do, but the math gets better if you do every yard line. But then it's good, right? If I say you got to shoot 500 yards, if you dial what you hit a water line with at 500, I'm not super worried about your elevation. But here's where the tricky part comes. We're taking a shot of a random shooter that has a zero, and some of them are shooting an inch and a half or 2 inches, right? So they're shooting a group that mills out at point 0.5, let's say. And if we're taking a shot, we don't know which one of that point 0.5 we're rounding up. And so sometimes you go from 500 to 600, and we have to adjust up 2 tenths. And then they take a shot, and now it's 2 tenths below the water line. And they start getting confused, like, what's the matter? And the math isn't the matter, it's that they can't shoot consistently. An inch and a half is
Precisely.
good,
Yeah,
but
it's
we're taking a precision measurement from something that's imprecise fundamentally. But here's the thing, even with that, we're we're getting a snapshot of that error by walking it out. And as we get tuned in and walk it out, we know where the center of their average is because we've been taking that average and narrowing it down with distance. So if somebody took 2 or 3 shots per yard line, that's 3 shots is 18 rounds to get 300 to 800. So that's 18 rounds. Okay. But with a Kestrel, somebody has to shoot to get an average velocity and a zero. So they get an average velocity, and then they might have heard, oh, I'm going to shoot at 500 yards and 1,000 yards. So they shoot at 500 yards, and 2 or 3 shots are 2/10 below. What do? They immediately change their velocity so that it matches, and they shoot, and then they're like, all right, it may or may not work. So they go to 1,000, and let's say it's high. So now they tweak their BC and they bring it back down. Then they come back to 5 or 6. Maybe they go to 600 because they're like, well, let's shoot another distance. And now it's high, so they slow their velocity back down a little bit, or they speed it up, and they're just changing numbers. And I've seen shooters do this for 50 rounds,
Yeah.
tweaking their Kestrel
Yeah.
data and having no idea what they're doing because they're measuring the same inherent disaccuracy that they have shooting, and they're tweaking their calculator and just chasing it. I mean, if you gave them an ammo box, they'd probably spend the whole thing changing their
Ignoring their
velocity at close
fundamentals.
range, yeah, and then changing their BC at distance, and seeing the error in their own shooting and tweaking everything, and not having any idea what happens until maybe they get lucky and they take one shot at 500 and it hits, and one shot at 1,000 and it hits, and they're like, awesome, we're golden. And then they go another day and they dial 700 yards and maybe it's 2/10 off. And so they go back to their Kestrel and they shoot another 100 rounds. But this 18 rounds, you never have to check it again because it's always going to be that number, give or take your accuracy. The only way to improve that is to get better fundamentals. And that's the answer for both of these. But gravity ballistics will save you a hell of a lot of money and heartache just changing values that you don't even know what you're changing. There's no way it's going to carry to another environment.
Yeah.
And
And then this
and
too, if I have a shot right here in the middle, which one is my group center? Right? It's like,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
this is it. So you get a shot perfectly centered in the middle of the plate. Well, is that the center of the group? Is that the bottom of the group or the top of the group? You know what I mean? So you have to have a little bit of a sample size, which 3 rounds is great. But then, like you're saying with the Kestrel, you're playing this, and one input mistake on a Kestrel throws it out of whack.
Mhm. So, but Andrew asked, is the theory we teach pretty much the same accuracy that other ballistics courses? Math is, you can't argue with math. So if they're based on math and we're based on math, you can't really argue that they're not accurate. But I feel pretty confident saying that with gravity ballistics and craft wind, every time you shoot, your data gets better. And
Because you're
it's
basing it on
carry,
hits, not just math.
right,
Get the
right. So
hit,
I would
then
say
do
it's
the math.
better. So I think that this is better than other apps, not because the math is different, but because the mindset is cumulative improvement. So that when you make a wind call and you shoot and it was off a mile an hour, you carry the wind mile an hour of the bullet. And every shot you take, you know the wind call better. So your call gets better and your drop gets better. And this encourages you to be a thinker. And by thinking the process that you're doing, every shot informs you rather than just getting frustrated at a device and be like, something's wrong with my Kestrel. I think my barrel sped up. So I think it's better.
I know it's better. Yeah. We see the confidence in the student by day two of gathering data. By the 700-yard line, their minds are blown because they're just hitting targets that they've sometimes never hit before, and they're doing it on the first strike. And
Uh,
it's a confidence builder for them, not a confidence breaker.
My thing just
yeah.
something.
There's there's this old show that I used to like. It's called Dude, You're Screwed. And it has 4 or 5 guys that are buddies. Some of them are vets and some of them are like adventurers, but they kidnap each other and then they drop them off at a random part of the earth, and they give them like a couple like joke things, and they say you got 100 hours to find civilization. And then, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it's pretty funny because, it's cool that
Hmm.
you're getting dropped somewhere on Earth. You have no idea where you are, and you got to find your way out of the middle of nowhere. But a version of Dude, You're Screwed for Shooting would be like blindfold you, take you to a range or somewhere, and then give you like a random unknown rifle system with random unknown ammo that works in it. And how fast can you get your data functional up and running with no other technology? If you know gravity ballistics and craft wind, I'm pretty sure you could fill out an entire ballistics card with fewer than 10 rounds and be accurate to around an MOA if you had decent shooting fundamentals,
Yeah.
regardless of what that system was. You would have to, I guess, zero it and then take a couple shots, and you would have everything you need to be functional with that
Just
rifle
at
system, even
600,
if you didn't know anything about it.
yeah, 600 will do it. Now, we have one of the guys is asking about truing about that. So with gravity ballistics, I want to kind of go back up and go over because they're asking questions. So with gravity ballistics, there is no input. In fact, like what Chris and I have been doing with the and let me get to it here.
I
Profiles.
could pull up my profile.
Yeah, yeah, and so I didn't do it there. Where did I do it? I did it in something, and I'm trying to find where. Oh, okay. So here I have the Seekins with the 123 grain bullet. This is the profile. So you guys are looking at this. The only functioning part of this profile is the gun number. So the first number of your G1BC or the gun number. But like what we've been doing is putting the G1BC in the bullet so you know. So I don't care, like 123 grain CNAR, it's a 527 BC. So I have that in there so I know it. But then there is no muzzle velocity or anything. And so then at that point, it's just pencils and check marks. If there's a check mark, I trued that range. If it's a pencil, I didn't true that range. But I don't need to true every range if I don't have to. Yeah, there's Chris's with that. And so this is it. This is pre-true data that gets better. Do it, dude. There is no caliber. It's gravity. Jay Wiggins, you're an idiot. There is no, I could do it with a
Oh, he
22
might
to
be
a
talking
50.
about the challenge. He might be saying about the TV show where
Oh,
you say,
oh, but
like,
with
there's no
ridiculous
data.
calibers. Do it with no,
Yeah,
no, no. Yeah,
like
no
with the,
ridiculous. It works with everything. It's gravity. So what
Hey
it
yeah.
is you drop
this
something and everything falls the same. So what Mark did was find the data between 100-yard lines or 100 meters really. Oh, okay, so I read it wrong, Jay, sorry. So what it is you have 2 points in space, right? From 200 to 300. Sorry. I was
We
being
love you,
silly.
Jay.
Yeah, we do. We're being silly. So the data is the point. So between, 1,900 yards, you're using 85% of your dope. Then you go between 900 and 800 yards, you're using like 66% of your dope. Between 700, it's like 56%, 46%, 30%. ETs love Jay. But anyway, I thought you were ragging on us. Like, you can't do it with silly calibers. No, sorry, I read it wrong, Jay.
This exists because in Alaska we were dealing with such a wide range of calibers and speeds that we couldn't go to a solution with a new student because it just didn't work. So we had to find a better way is what it's all about, and that's what this is. Gravity ballistics is the better way.
Yeah,
And Chris, who was never introduced to it till a couple years ago, came in as a he didn't come in as a believer. He came in as a skeptic and proved it right. And Chris is about as analytical as any person on the planet.
I'm
So I mean, that's a real big sale
yeah,
if you can
I have
sell
a
Chris on.
I have a test track here that I did for someone where I only trued one value, the 600-yard shot, and it fills everything out and will get you super duper close with just 600 because it's in the middle. Now, 200 is pretty simple because it's 2 MOA, 0.5 in there, and you're going to double it to a variation of 3. But 300 yards is where Mark and I started this because Alaska didn't have a 200-yard line. And 300 is easy for anybody because it's like 1 mil. Like even a bad 308 is like 1.3. So 1 mil on the plate is going to keep you on the plate. Then once you true that 1 mil, that sets the stage for everything, and the simplicity is there at that point. And you're not trying to true. Here's the other problem with the Kestrel is the subsonic. If you have a 6.5 Creedmoor, you need about 1,450 yards to shoot the subsonic level of the Kestrel. So you could do the supersonic, but then when you go to subsonic, that's out there for a 6.5 Creedmoor. It's not like you're going to go subsonic right around 1,000 yards for a 308. You're going subsonic with a 6.5 Creed at 1,400 or so. And not everybody has access to that range. So how are you truing a Kestrel the way they wanted you to if you can't shoot as far as you need to shoot to get the data that it requires? So I hacked the
Yeah. So
system.
I shot some rounds today just trying to true something, but I don't know if you could see that,
Yeah.
right? And that's like actually like, I'm psyched because it's pretty good shooting. It's 6 shots from 5 positions, but you can see that it's 2/10 shifted in wind and 1/10 in elevation. And it wasn't zeroed, but my point here is that if somebody shoots a small group like this from one position, and then they do another one, and it's in that axis, and another one in that axis, they might shoot small groups, but it's inconsistent. And because of that, when you go shoot, there's going to be errors in where the shot went that's not based on where the drop is. It's in the shooter, and it's really hard to separate shooter and data. And I think what most of the arguments against gravity ballistics you can trace back to shooters' inconsistency. And even if this was centered, that's 2/10 vertical. If I'm off by a tenth up or down and I run that number, it's going to be off because that tenth is going to continue to get bigger if it's high or low. So you have to be honest in your assessment of what are we seeing every time somebody shoots, which makes it very hard to shoot consistently small groups at distance. But I think people they forget how hard it is to be consistent. We don't
What
all
percentage of
shoot.
shooters can reconcile a 1/10 error at distance?
No, I don't honestly,
Yeah,
I don't think a
zero.
shooter can really do that, but the expectation is that it's there because we should be shooting Dinty Morcans at a mile. Uh, and that is possible, but not first round
Probable, not probable.
impacts, right? Like Marky
Yeah.
Wahlberg.
He's
And
good
when
though.
you
He's
look at his,
good.
but when you look at his reticle and you mill that can, it's much bigger.
Oh, I
It's
never
like,
thought of that. I never milled his can. How big is it when you mill
oh,
it?
I
I
think
never.
it's like it's over a mill.
Oh, is it?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
was it
So
So
MOA? It had to be MOA. It had to be MOA.
when I watch movies like that, I film them. So somewhere on here, I have that clip. Um, but it mills out
Why does that not shock me, Frank?
mm-hmm.
it's
You're too
over a
analytical.
mill. Yeah, it's
I bet
over a
it's.
mill.
I
I was
bet
like,
it's an
dude,
MOA. I bet he had an MOA reticle though.
the Dinty Morcan is like
Yeah.
8 feet wide. Um,
And hang on, I'm gonna go get
but
a drink real quick. I'll be right back.
um, Oh, I guess if I YouTube it, I could probably find it faster. I have it on my phone, but I have 6,000 videos. So, yeah, but it's funny. You see the reticle, and you're like, oh shit, that's a mile away. That is a huge can. Um,
Right.
but uh, but I'm a broken record now because I'm sold on gravity ballistics and craft wind, not only because it works and it saves rounds, but because the math is as solid as any other calculator, but it takes all the bells, whistles, and confusion out of it, makes it so easy and accessible that and it works and gets better with time, and you don't have to fuck around with all the fancy shit. The other stuff, good advertising and making people think that they need a computer with all this stuff is going to sell more of those things, but it's not really helping people because it's too easy to input something wrong.
It's based
But
on
the only
parameters,
thing,
not based on hits.
and the only thing that it's training you to do is believe it and not question anything else. Whereas we're saying, where the bullet goes, it goes. And if you shoot it again, or you come back tomorrow, you're going to hit it if you shoot what hit it yesterday, except for wind. Like, if you have your dope dialed and solder your turret to an elevation for a target, you're going to always hit that stupid target. Like, you don't need a Kestrel to tell you what to dial. That target, you're going to hit all the time. And there's some subtle things that you could point out that have to change, like from sea level to 7,000 feet DA. But even that's pretty darn subtle. And at practical distances, being taught to think your way through it, you'd know to hold more or less, and you would know what was happening, and you wouldn't be questioning whether your barrel sped up.
You guys can go. You there? Good, good,
We've
Hmm.
been going.
good, good. No, like wind deflection though. I mean, I guess drift number would probably be better because wind deflection's long. So changing that. Now, gravity ballistics isn't for ELR. We don't have it where it can go out that far. We didn't multiply it out. So you don't necessarily use gravity ballistics in the context. You can get to a certain point and you can keep going, but marching out with gravity ballistics for ELR wouldn't really work. But what you can do is you true your gravity ballistics to your Kestrel to 1,000, and we have a cheat for that. We hack the Kestrel system. You basically build a profile, then you set the target range to 600. You adjust it to match the gravity ballistics at 6, then go to your 1,000. And then if that's off, you're changing the BC for that number. From there, your Kestrel will be accurate and will work right out of the gate. Then you can kind of look at it to shoot ELR, but ELR wrecks the curve. And even in sometimes, some of them, you don't even start a track until 1,500. It's kind of like you're zeroing it later because it's a lot of wiggle back and forth in ELR and conditions change it. Like I took both the Kestrel AB and the Kestrel with Hornady to gun sight with AI a couple years ago, doing their XLR course, so their ELR. And I ran them alongside each other to see. And like, after 1,800, the Hornady was falling apart. And, the AB worked pretty well to 24. But I've also have some where I look at trends with ELR, and the trends with ELR, you're looking at your computer to see if it trends better or worse, higher or lower to where you round it. So there's a lot of extra in my mind that you'll do for ELR, and ELR is its own separate thing, because of the distance and because such small variables will change and the computers can't keep up until you kind of nail a spot in the middle, and then your accuracy mistakes are as big as the plate because everything matters in ELR. That's why these guys are doing $20 bullets. They're building their, like, if you talk to Paul Phillips, he's telling you it costs him 25 bucks a round. I've heard 15, I've heard 20, 25, because it's all the bullet. And then the atmospheres fuck with it so much.
But to answer Elk Killer, he's asking, Chris, are you going to use gravity ballistics at Night Force ELR next year? He will have used gravity ballistics to gather his data out to at least 1,000 yards, where he is now uh, repeatable and predictable. And basically, then he goes in and trues his solver, and allows his solver to get him to the mile or the 2 miles or whatever they're going to shoot the ELR to. So basically,
Yes,
he's going to have a
yes.
great solution to get there. Yeah.
Okay, here's the reticle. I'm pretty sure that's in mils, but that's 3 mils. If you could see, it mills out to 3 mils.
He had a spotter closer.
3 mils at a mile.
That's a big can, man.
I
Yeah.
never know. I never thought of that. Yeah, that's a good one.
Me neither. I never thought to mill it.
No,
I
it's
did.
it's 2.75 mils.
At a
So it's a
mile,
little smaller. Yeah,
work the math.
2.75
Yeah,
mils at a mile.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's big. I can do the math, and I will. Because
Yeah,
um
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I think you couldn't convince us that gravity ballistic, and when I send these guys the math, they will be able to do it for ELR, um, because it works. But you need to know something about your bullet, but it would probably still work.
Well, what we
It,
and
it,
we did an exercise we did is like I had said, we look at drop. So we have for us, drop is the secret sauce. There's a drop column on here. I don't know if I'm out. There we go. There's a drop column. And for us, the drop is the secret sauce. So you look at it like on this track right here that I have pulled up, it's 1.6 between 9 and 1,000. So it's showing 1.6. Well, the next one is probably going to be 1.8, maybe 2.0, and then the next one's going to, it's going to go sequentially. It may jump bigger. It's not going to go 2 tenths more. It may go 4 tenths, 6 tenths, 8 tenths more each time you grow in ELR, but you can actually interpret the numbers out. An eight twist for your 308. I don't like eight for a 308, but what caliber are you talking? You saying MRAD has a 24-inch eight twist? Are you? Yeah, 308. I don't. I've seen flyers. I had an eight twist. I got rid of it. It threw flyers, if you ask
Spider
me.
cans.
But
It's good for
What's the
subsonic though.
diameter?
yeah, subs and stuff. But I think a 10 twist is more than enough for anything you're going to shoot in 308. I like a 10 twist. But I had a 308 with an 8 twist, and it threw flyers on me. And it would be like, good, where did that go? Why? And so I never really liked an 8 twist. And on top of that, it does amplify the spin drift. So it's like now you're calculating spin drift because you could see the fucking thing move. It's like, woo, it's like it's turning away from the target because it's so fast. But I'm not an 8 twist fan for a 308 by any stretch. So that's where that kind of goes. So anyway, now what are you drawing, Chris? Still trying to.
I'm trying to figure out the Dinty Morcan is 2.87. Um, uh, It's
Blake Bowen says it's
2.87.
174 inches tall. Blake Bowen
Well,
says it's 174 inches tall.
yeah,
That's a big
it's
can, man.
I googled how what the diameter is. It's 2.84, but if it's 3 inches, they took that picture at 30 yards. Um, but
Yeah, so
let's
it'd be
see.
174 tall. That's a pretty tall Dinty Moore can. That's
Yeah, but
actually
I'll figure out.
that's a good piece of trivia there, Blake. That's nailing it. If it was a mile, yes, that's a great piece of trivia. How tall was the Dinty Moore can in shooter? And then say
But well,
174 inches.
I milled it left to right, but left to right, um, it is yeah, 176 inches wide.
Yep, there you go.
100,
176.
176 at 2.75 mils is at that's actually 1777.8 yards, but close enough to a mile.
That will totally win drinks. That's like the guy. Have you seen the guy with the glasses who goes around and asking you like trivia? I saw today. He was like, "What state per capita, or what city rather? What city per capita has the most strip clubs in it?" And so
I
he,
don't know.
yeah,
Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Yeah.
no,
Um, that it's 14.66 feet wide. So we could build a Dinty Moore
D Moore
can at
can
a
like Marky
mile,
Mark shot.
14 feet wide. Everybody would hit it.
Mm-hmm. The Dinty Moore challenge takes on a whole new name. But
It's like it's the size of a Chevy Tahoe.
yeah, that's what he shot, a billboard. He must have went to FTW Ranch and shot a billboard. Um, but anyway, where were we? But no, I do want to kind of, I think like a wind drift number versus the gun number. I don't know though, because like there is use in the gun number, but then it does confuse. It throws me off a little bit. Might need a Dinty Moore stage in November, right? 174. Well, but we don't have a mile, so at rifles only,
It
there's
just
no
needs a
mile.
value. Yeah, we just have to have a we just have to pick a value and call it right. Like the gravity ballistics has the X factor. That will confuse if we talk XY axis. If we don't, it won't. But for the drift value, we could put a symbol or a thing and just say use this number.
Yeah, yeah, potentially.
And that'll eliminate the confusion. But once people get it, though,
They get it.
even no matter how hard it is and how much resistance on day one, by the end they get it and they're hitting things, and all the confusion and arguing seems stupid because they're hitting targets all the time.
Those guys in Nebraska were really pulling out some decent wind calls.
They were. That was actually.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, did I not make the? Where did I make that win call? That was like I made several win calls that were next level. Was it this class?
It was this class, and I think it was it
The 1400 in the
the 1400 target? Yeah, yeah,
12
like
mile an hour
no,
wind.
no, yeah, yeah, because they changed. Everybody got on. They were in the line. Shooter one. They're like, "What should I hold for wind?" And you said like 1.3 mils, and he hit the center of the X.
Yeah, he center X'd it. Yeah, yeah, and it was like 1400 yards in a 12 mile an hour wind or so. And I want to say it was almost like like he
It
was
was three
super.
two. It was 3-2. I remember 3
Well,
2.
him and Porter was, or yeah, Porter was fast and flat, so I used less dope for Porter. But there was a 3-2 that I did use.
Yeah.
He might have been a 2-2 or 2-3, but I mean I made some pretty impressive win calls this class, and because I'm thinking in Chris's numbers, you know what I mean, and I'm able to look at these guys and give them a call. And I do agree with Chris when he's saying like once you kind of figure this part out, the tenths kind of fall away a little bit. And it's like we're talking, the 1/10 matters less, I guess is a way of putting it, because it's going to hit either way. And it's like, do we really care about the 10th? Even though the 10th is there when we need it, like to come out quick, it's just like, yeah, that's in the zone. It's a strike zone still.
Yeah, totally. And on a calculator, you say, well, here it's saying a tenth difference, but on a target, it's a circle, and if you're trying to just hit the circle, you're going to hit the circle, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
refine it. So rather than defining it as a point, which it's fun when it hits the center, but even if you have a circle and a circle and a circle, at some point, hitting something defined at all is acceptable, and
Well,
that
and
gets us in that forward thinking mindset.
and another thing to talk about with this, the shot pattern on the plates. When you look at the targets from a gravity ballistic class, they're confined.
Shooting the center out. They're shooting
They're
the center out.
shooting the center out of the steel. We don't have these random hits on steel. If we're shooting 1,000, absolutely. But like 6 and in, there is a defined spot the students are chewing up, and the rest of the plate is clean. At 300, they're all chewing up a 3-inch circle, more or less. They're in that baseball. And so we do notice that. And like Chris brought this up with your dasher when you were shooting it 2 weeks ago, and you were like, man, all my dope is still working, regardless of the change. And I think it's that more centered group for the number that keeps it tighter, longer, and under more conditions. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like the variation doesn't throw us as far off the plate unless the variations are going to throw everything far off the plate. So it to me, it creates tighter groups among a wider variety of shooters.
Yeah, and it has your mind immediately at problem solving rather than questioning, oh my God, something's wrong. Instead of like panicking, it's the action versus reaction. You're acting because you're thinking on solving a problem, improve it, solve a problem, improve it. And if you see something off, you 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 solve the problem, improve it rather than, oh no, panic, panic. I'm worried about something, and
Right, right.
that decreases performance anyway. In this sense, to push people forward confident, um, and that mental part is massively significant because it has you thinking about like, I'm not worried, I'm going to solve the problem. And then all you have to worry about is shortening the time, but that takes time and work. But the mindset being different, there's less panic and there's more curiosity. And when you give them something odd, like, okay, it's 570 yards, what are you going to do? Add 7 tenths from 500 or take off 3 tenths from 600? You don't have to be like, well, wait a minute, I didn't write my dope down to every 10-yard line. Like, so what?
Who cares?
Like,
Right.
Think it out.
Ins-
yeah, you're gonna hit.
Inside 1,000 yards, the only need I have for a Kestrel is for the wind speed. There's
Mhm.
no other reason I need the Kestrel except to give me a wind speed number that's accurate. I can guess a number and I could shoot it and then adjust it based on, like we're talking, because the wind is going to tell us the same thing. I can guess a number and say, okay, this is 6 miles an hour, and hold point 0.6 at 6, and then see the impact and see it's at point 0.9, point 0.8, and go, okay, it's an 8 mile an hour wind. And then from there, I can, now I start using 8. So it's improving. And I notice I do that all the time now. Now it's, now I'm going, that's a 6. That's a 7. That's an 8. That's a 5. That's a 3. That's a 6. That's a 7. That's a 3. And as the wind's changing and moving, I'm looking at it and going, "Oh, I hit it with a 6. All right, I hit it with a 5. I hit it with an 8. I hit it with a 3." And so it's basically telling me every time I hit the plate.
Yeah. And you refine it every time it hits the plate. And the argument of like, well, you said 6 tenths, but I hit it at 5 tenths. Like anybody watching this out of the 126 people watching, if you hit something with 6 tenths of wind, but you needed 5 tenths of wind, that tenth in the center, if either way, it's going to be centered up. If I said hold 5 tenths center, and you hit 6, or hold 6/10 center and you hit 5, we're talking about a 2/10 plate. That's that's 2/3 of an inch, right? At whatever the distance. Um, I don't think that's worth arguing, you know?
I don't. He's asking about DA with a
There's
Kestrel.
no
I
error
don't.
there. There's
Yeah,
no
I
error
don't
there to
use DA
calculate.
with Kestrels. I use because Kestrel's pulling all the real data. I'll look at all of it, but DA definitely helps to put one number on it. But I'll look at it everything because I'm going to scroll through anyway, so I want to see all the numbers. And the Kestrel's using all the numbers, even the ballistics part bypasses any settings you make for weather, and it uses the raw data. So it's not using density altitude. We're using density altitude to translate the three features: the baro, the temp, and the humidity. We just use density altitude instead of memorizing all three of them, you know.
And that's super important. I mean, you need to know the temperature, you need to know the density, altitude, and you need to know wind speed. How you get it, you could be creative, but those are values that you're going to want to know because it's going to affect all the parameters in your shooting. But how you get it, you just want to make sure you have the best numbers possible. But man, yeah, if you have a DA and you know that you're within 1,000 feet of that, it's probably not going to make much of a difference. But knowing that you're in that zone is very important.
Right, because
And
4,000 feet of DA is going to change your data. And that's the 4,000 plus or minus DA is where data changes. It's like 200 feet per second, 4,000 feet of DA. All these are variables that shift the goalposts. Like even Ted here has the gravity ballistics, and he has the range from 2,500 feet per second to 3,200 feet per second. That's about where our average for the number is. Now we can adjust that number. It allows you to change it if you need to, like we do for angles. But between 2,500 feet per second and 3,200 feet per second, gravity ballistics going to be a rock star.
yeah. And yeah, if you're shooting 1,000 yards and out, you're going to see the tenths start to come or go if it changes 1,000 DA. But inside of 1,000, it's going to take big changes to start changing that. And if you're a tenth low or a tenth high, if we go out with 6,000 feet and it heats up and it's 7,000 feet and we're shooting 1,000 yards and we happen to hit a tenth high, that's still that tenth. It's like, man, that's such a small variation that the amount of worry I want to invest in that is basically nothing.
Well, and like that's when I was talking with the AJ as well, the aerodynamic jump, and I was showing that at that 1,000 yard target out by the mile, in the direction of the mile, and we were shooting it, and we had the 18-mile-an-hour winds, and I was 2 tenths high, and that plays right into that 12-mile-an-hour change where we were shooting. And remember, I said to you, and I'm like, right there, I said, this gun was on Rockstar, and I could see the 2/10 change from the wind, but the wind was up to 18 miles an hour. You're not going to get that 2/10 change of wind with a 6-mile-an-hour wind, with a 10-mile-an-hour wind. But if you get big winds, you're going to see it. It's going to change it because it's over your zero wind now.
Yeah, but if let's say you're shooting a target, and let's say this target mills out at 5/10, you're going to hit it here.
Yeah.
So that change isn't, you're not going to not hit it, and you're not going to not, it's like, okay, I hit it here. That is 2/10. You take note of it, right? You might but you're not going to miss the target. So uh, to me, at some point, like, yeah, you want to take out error, but you're
Right.
also going to take the shot and not worry about it,
Well, but
you
that's
know?
the beauty
Yeah.
beauty of always using a water line and always putting our shots to center water line as best we can, because that's keeping that number as tight to the middle as possible. So a 2/10 error doesn't take you off the plate.
Right. Right. The one of the things that happened in this class that I thought was really cool and should probably happen more, and everybody watching this, if you could put paper at 200 or 300 yards, put a black circle and build and break 5 shots at that black circle and see where the shots go. Because if you have a dot that you can aim at from an impact, but if you can't see your hole and you're just aiming at the center of that thing, we've got paper targets too that are the outlines and people can stack them. But when we fill them in with black, their groups are huge because they don't aim consistently at the center of the target. They aim somewhere in there, and so they hit them, but the holes are all over the place. And if you're aiming at a target, can you actually hold center of that target? It would be worth shooting paper to tell yourself, "Wow, I'm not really aiming as consistently as I thought I was."
Yeah,
They're failing to quarter it properly.
all right. I'm amazed in that. That's right, exactly what I was going to say. What Mark said. I'm amazed, and I heard it during the class when I'll say quarter the target, and people go, "What does that mean?" They'll talk to each other on the line, and we hear them, and someone asks, "What does quartering the target mean?" They've lost the art of quartering a target, and so people don't understand how to break that target up, how to make sure their holds are right, and what it looks like. And that's where the no aiming point, you quarter the target at that point, and people fail to do that. They don't understand quartering. Or even what I'll do is I'll find where like the closest to center I am. I did this an Allegheny sniper challenge, and I used to always win this part of the competition. So Allegheny sniper challenge would have the dirty group shot. And at the end of the day that we shot all day, they had like they usually would just do a plain egg or something like from a craft store, and it was glued back and there was no aiming point. And so you would have to shoot the smallest group with no aiming point, and smallest group wins. And I always used to win it because I would find closest to the center of the target and then find a mill or a hash mark and pin that to the edge of the target. And not look in the middle, but look on the edge at that point and go, okay, I'm in the center, but the center, there's nothing to aim at. But on the edge, here's a half, mill hash mark right here. I got to move it about a tenth down. Okay, now I'm touching. So I moved my center down a tenth, and I'm just stacking them using that edge. And so it's kind of like this lost art of where people are doing, the quartering or how they hold on targets, and why I like the water line, because it gives them something to hold on. What's Chris doing?
Hmm.
On a
He's
blank target, your horizontal reticle is your water line.
yeah,
If you're quartering properly.
yeah, totally, totally. Chris was running some water. I just muted his thing. He's still running water. He's probably in there peeing and he's running water so we don't hear him. But anyway, but yeah, so like quartering is definitely a skill set that should be out there when you're working it, because in like Chris said, with those black targets we have, they work really well. We even had remember when we used those targets, Mark? Or were you not? You might not have been there. Might have been when you had your heart. But did we use those black and orange targets in Pennsylvania? Remember, like Nick shot the best group on the lowest
That
power.
was at 300.
Yeah. Well, we did them at 3, but we did them at 100 as well with the magnification. So maybe it was the second year I did the magnification, but the first year I did the group at 300, and you might not have been there with the magnification.
Got it.
But what we do is we put them on max magnification and have them shoot 12 o'clock. We put on mid-range magnification and have them shoot 6 o'clock. And this is a blacked out target with very small aiming points. Then in the center, we have them go on lowest power, and there's about a quarter inch, maybe an eighth of it, a little bigger, maybe 3/8 of an inch orange dot. And on lowest power, we'll see some of the guys have the best groups, and so that's one of those things that we'll notice, is that those guys on low power have some of the best groups.
Well, it
Um,
takes any distortion out that their body creates. It gives them a dead reticle instead of a bobbing reticle. And so I think that's a valid point. That's why I never go over 18x. I mean, even if we're going to shoot to a mile, why do you need more than 18x? All you're going to do is see more distortion and see more problem.
Yeah, I printed these out. See, you can't hear me, can you?
No, we got you.
Yeah,
You're there. I unmuted
that's
you.
Oh,
You're
oh,
good. You're good. You're
oh,
good.
oh, oh. Yeah, these are what we're talking about, the paper ones anyway. The other side, they're just the outline and you can aim center with an aiming dot, but the you flip the paper over and you just say, all right, take a shot at each of the shapes, and people forget which ones they shot in the first place. Um, they often hit the small one, but if you say take 3 shots, these big ones, the groups are humongous in them, uh, which I think is fascinating. You say just shoot the center out of all of them, and the bigger ones they can't shoot the center out of.
Crazy,
aim
right?
small, miss small. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It totally works. Yeah, I was gonna do.
But
There's a webinar up on the Hide for Friday. At 8x. Oh, less is more, Vincent. He's asking about power. Um, uh,
I like 12
hang on. I was typing.
ish.
So Vincent, and you don't use a lot of power. In fact, like somebody was saying, like my spotter, they came over because I'm using the Night Force Field spotter. I really love it. I think it's great, and I'm only like on that, I was only like 15 power or something, and they're like, "Oh, don't you spot on 60?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a 20, 15, and at at a mile, I don't max mag because you're magnifying the atmosphere. So if there's and especially that far away, there's often mirage kicking up. So I don't want 25 power times 25 the mirage. I only want to times the mirage by 15 power, not
Yeah.
25 power. So when I shoot far, you use less power.
Hey, thanks for the comment,
Mhm.
Ray. And good to see you, Vincent. Sorry we missed you in Alaska, bud.
Yep, yep.
I have to go make dinner for the monsters because
Okay, well you
I
could
told
take
them
off.
I
We'll
would, but
we'll end
Louise
it.
started to do that. But no, you guys could stay on because
Yeah,
there's a
we
lot of
will for a
people and
minute.
there's shit. Like we kind of went slow. There's a lot of good stuff to address, but
But Mark and I'll talk
yeah, I don't know what
Nebraska
else
for
to
a
say.
second and then all that. But yeah, if you got a jet, no worries, man. We'll get you
Good to
out of
see you,
there.
Chris.
Yeah, I got to make these. Yeah, it's good to see you. I think yeah, we should do these more and talk about refining stuff. I think
Sounds
Cool,
good.
especially
cool.
when there's good comments.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I got to make the kids dinner,
All
so
right,
I
man.
got to
I'll
go.
talk to you.
Everybody, sign up for Craft Wind on High TV, and
High
I'll see you
TV
later.
lessons later. There he goes. Yeah, so Chris is out. But yeah, I mean, these were really good classes. Nebraska, like you said, those guys, um, most of them are repeat people. We have a lot of repeat students, and they're pretty shit hot with a lot of that. So, we're,
I think I got 3 seats in Ohio.
oh, 3 seats,
If anybody wants,
Vincent, in
yeah.
Ohio. Yeah, Ohio's ready. We'll be there doing the Ohio stuff. Andrews Range is nice. It works really well for us. It's a good learning range. It's not usually too overly windy there, and Andrews Range does have the mover, so we do mover stuff in Ohio as well with the 3-day class. So the third day's mover and things like that. So yeah, definitely Ohio's a great venue for us. The town isn't awesome, but it's not bad. We have fun at the 80s dive bar that's across from the hotels. And then we go into like Ashtabula. There's a couple trendy little spots by the water that, little pricey, but okay. And so, but we really like Ohio. It's an easy drive. It's right there off the highway and not bad. And then if you fly into Cleveland, it's only 45 minutes from Cleveland. So you fly into Cleveland, you hop right on the highway, takes you straight shot there, get off the highway, hotel rooms are right there, and then the range is 15 minutes away. So it's super simple.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. And then I'm going to be at Major Lands right after Andrews. I may actually go like to Andrews, then fly to Connecticut for a weekend thing, and then go down to major lands right after. So it might be a friggin' crazy bouncy type of festival. But yeah, so much better. What has he got out of my suppressor? Oh, Vincent's saying he upgraded his stock to mag pull, much better length of pull, and added my suppressor, fixed my bipod, ready to rock. Sounds like he's ready to rock. Bipods matter, man. Bipods matter. And it's nice, like, because we had that one guy this weekend with the mag pull, and as weird as those were, putting that guy on the bench with the boards so he can press against, I think salvaged that mag pull really well. He didn't struggle awful with the mag pull. It wasn't getting knocked out of whack. It wasn't weird, but because we had him pinned on the bench, and then I added the extra board so it fit better for him, I think it did really well for him. When you say, Mark?
Eh, eh. You were
No,
looking
it's not
down.
a good one.
You
It's
yeah,
not a
you were
good.
looking down range, Frank. I was sitting there in his space, and he was. It's half plastic, half aluminum, and it
Yeah, yeah.
suffers students, man. The mag. We're talking about the Magpul bipod, and they. I don't even think he had a pick rail underneath.
No,
I
it was
couldn't trade him
attached.
over. They sort
Right.
of affix you to that bipod with that stock. It's sort of
The version he had came
yeah.
with it, and so they just do the M lock part. So the version he had, yeah, the elite iron is definitely relevant. Andrew's asking about the elite iron. I mean, that's what like AB's doing. Applied Ballistics is doing the ELR gun, and they're using elite iron on the ELR gun.
Yeah,
So
it's the dump truck of bipods.
yeah, it works. It's totally perfect and stuff. So the Elite Iron is next level and really, really good. I mean, I like the Atlas Cal, and I even like the Super Cal if you want to go bigger and a little bit more. I think the Atlases are good. If you want something smaller and you intend to stay smaller, um, then the Thunder Beast I think is really good. I think the Thunder Beast is the perfect compromise bipod for size and weight, and then the only negative I have on that is the extensions. That's why I like the Atlas Cal a millimeter over the Thunder Beast, is when you attach the extensions, the extensions on the
It's
on the Thunder,
rickety.
yeah, they get rickety. And so on the Atlas Cal, I could put the extensions on and they're outside to outside and they're not inside. And
Yeah.
so those are we like the Elite Iron, we like the Atlas Cal, and we like the Thunder Beast. There's a couple of an Accutac is good. I like where they fixed the Accutac's sort of mounting, because for a little while I wasn't a fan of the way the Accutac was at the top, but now I'm digging the way the Accutac is.
The only problem we have with the Accutac is it doesn't go short enough for some situations. That's the only thing we ever see is that they can't get it down short enough.
Yeah, yeah. They 45 them to get them short.
Yeah.
Um, why do I like the aluminum Elite Iron versus the steel? I don't know. I just do. I like the aluminum one better. I think it's a better package. I mean, the steel's the original and the old one, and it works and everything's good. The steel one reminds me of the TRG bipod, and I like the aluminum, and I don't like the swivels.
If you shoot
So
338 or bigger, get the steel. If you don't, the aluminum will do just fine.
Vincent's like, "Be right back. I'm at work. I have a patient in the room." Yeah, the Accutacs, they've improved the Accutacs really well, and um they have a nice set of SKUs in that. And the only thing, like Mark says, is because they're generally in the little bit taller for some people, and we notice if anybody has to get lower for any reason, they're always 45ing them, because they just when they the size most people get tend to be taller. And so that's the only, but the Accutacs got very good. Like I said, they've improved that
It's
sort of.
robust. It's very
Yeah.
robust.
I had no, I saw it and played with it. I have a bipod like the Tricer here. Um, it's okay. It's a little. I have one a little thicker from a company. I think I want to say it's called Rebel, and there was a there was a hunting show right down the street at the Gaylord Center. The Gaylord is that big place Trump went when he came out here, and they were all like, Trump's going to Aurora, and he was at the Gaylord Center. They had a hunting show there, and Tricer was there, and I got to play with a bunch of their stuff. But then right around the corner from Tricer, I saw this other one that I thought was like a millimeter better. And so James Kimura is asking, how's life down south for you, Mark?
Probably going to be hunting this fall, this winter, but love the heat down here. The heat's a lot better for recovery. Don't miss anything about Alaska except the people and my friends. That's it. Otherwise, I did everything I wanted to do up there. I was up there 25 years. It was a great experience. Life building is what it was. It wasn't just life altering, it was life building. And I really enjoyed it, but it was time to go. Didn't go up there to die and almost did. So I had to get back home.
Ray, I'm still here, but I'm on my way out. I will be out by the beginning of next year. Quarter one, 26. I will be out of Colorado. I'm here right now. But yeah, we're assembling places to go and to get out. And he says you don't miss the cold in the dark.
Nope.
It's always six
Nope.
o'clock. For you guys have never been to Alaska, it's always 6 o'clock in Alaska. And in case you're wondering, yes, that is celebrity state trooper, uh, Trooper Kimura on there. So
Chops, pork chops,
yeah,
pork
yeah.
chops.
As
Yeah.
he pork chops now. Now move to Iowa. Iowa does look nice. Iowa is so clean, so nice. And we brought home Hess sweet corn, and it is the next Iowa sweet corn is the best sweet corn. We went and Laura found Hess, and I got a bushel of it down there, and I had it tonight. I had the range cow that we butchered for dinner, and then I had the Hess corn from Iowa for my dinner before I came on here.
I was a
So
Marine recruiter in Iowa for 3 years as a staff sergeant, and I loved Iowa. I always said, man, if I can't, if the world just turns to hell, I'd go back to Iowa in a heartbeat. I love that. It's very clean, right, Frank?
yeah, it's
Beautiful state.
spotless.
Yeah, beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful place. I mean,
Great
everything
people.
about it, it's just it's rock star. And Iowa's definitely a thing. And um I'm 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 almost thinking I might do Missouri, but North Missouri by Iowa, close to Omaha, and in between sort of Kansas. So if I want, I can bounce down to like Kansas and maybe fly out, or maybe bounce up to Omaha or Iowa. So I'm almost thinking potentially Missouri, but right between where Kansas and Iowa and Missouri all come
You want to
together.
be St. Joseph, around St. Joseph area.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's kind of where I'm thinking in my head, but we'll start looking, hardcore come October or so, November, and then I'm gonna start making my moves to get myself out of here. Yeah, oh, no, Nebraska's cheap too. When we were in Nebraska looking around that Imperial McCook, and it was pennies on the dollar compared to Colorado. So even Nebraska was cheap, and talking with them, and in that area, it's pretty close to um Jake's place and stuff. So
Life is portable, and when you get to a place that's really affordable, for me, it was my hometown of Central Mississippi. It's just so affordable here. I got no bills whatsoever except insurance and electricity. Man, it's just incredible. It's
yes,
easy. It's money I don't have to make anymore. I can make it on just about anything. It's easy.
yeah, and Tina did go with him. Ray was asking if Tina went with you.
Yeah.
I'll be pulling him up around March of next year is when I pull out. I'm okay with 750 though. I mean, like I said, Chris and I are doing so much at 600. We set so many kind of our things at 600. Yeah, Mississippi is good work, Marcus. It's not expensive. He's got decent ranges near him as well, and it's not bad over there for the Mississippi
I'm going to try to
area.
develop something down here. See if we can't get the southeast crowd to move into central Mississippi a little bit. It takes time, and I'm still recovering. I still got a bum shoulder, bum arm. I'm still trying to get over this damn stroke. So, but I'm going to get out. I'm going to get to work on it. There's still a lot of life left here, And Frank and I are just hitting our stride. Look at all these cool things coming out. And if you haven't taken one of our classes like in the last year or two, it's so smooth now you wouldn't believe it. We're really getting to people. We've smoothed our delivery, and they're really accepting it really well. So
Yeah, and I've cleaned, and like I said, it's I've inserted Chris's wind into our presentation, but we still talk that original gun number. Like I have Ted's chart in there that shows you, double, triple, quadruple, and it's still just slightly confusing for people. And you got to figure there's not a lot of people that obsess over this like we do. There's guys that come out that want to get trained up and taught, and so you start throwing these numbers at them and eyes glaze over. So us attempting to find the the easiest route where the most, acceptable terms and how we present the information, and that's what makes a big difference. Our class, like Mark said, is so streamlined, it's so effective. I mean, like he says, in 2 days, people are clones. And then by the third day, we get to have the fun and games. And by the third day, they have the wind. It takes the third day for them to get the wind, but they really don't realize they have it on the second because they couldn't shoot the targets if they didn't. Because especially out here, we had 14-mile-an-hour winds, 12-mile-an-hour winds. If they don't know the wind, and or they don't listen and understand a certain, they're never going to be anywhere near the plates. I mean, we help them and we give them data, but we're giving them data based on what we're teaching. And we're showing them, look, I'm doing 9/6. This is this 1.5% of distance. 1.5% of that is this. And it becomes really easy for us to say we're shooting the percent of the distance. And then we go, okay, what's 1.5 of 6? 9.9 is your hold. Okay, you're going to 8. What's 1.5 of that? What's this? And so that becomes very simple for people.
all right, been an hour and a half. You
Yeah,
ready to
man,
wrap it
we're
up?
gonna go. Mark's gonna go to bed. I'm gonna go to bed. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for watching the lives. Head over to the hide.tv. I'm gonna have a webinar this weekend. We'll see. I'll probably do. And plus, if anything, I'm gonna test it. So I'm gonna be checking this out and trying one. If you're interested, great. If you're not, I'm gonna do it anyway just to see how I could do it. So Chris and I can do lives and do the webinars for you. We're out at the range. So Friday night, I'm going to do a quick little lesson, the fundamentals. And then Saturday, I'm going to go to the range and pull the live up, and I'll be broadcasting it that way. Thanks, everybody, for being on. Really appreciate you all. Nice crowd, nice questions. You guys rock star and do all that. And so we'll talk to you guys soon. But yeah,
Thanks for
cheers,
coming,
man.
guys.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for who. All right, we are out. Finish.